There was a point when things used to genuinely excite me. A game coming out that I'd been waiting for, a plan with friends for the weekend. Even just the feeling of a Friday afternoon when the whole weekend was still ahead of you, and anything could happen. And that feeling was real. It wasn't me imagining it or being nostalgic about something that wasn't there. It was just there, pretty reliably, and I didn't think much about it because it didn't occur to me that it might not always be. And then at some point it started being less there. Same situations, same kinds of plans, same things that used to work, and the feeling they produced was just a little flatter than I remembered. Not completely gone, nothing dramatic, just noticeably less than it used to be, and I kept waiting for it to come back properly, and it mostly didn't. And after a while I started wondering whether something was wrong with me, or whether this was just what getting older actually felt like from the inside. I think a lot of people hit this and don't really talk about it because it's hard to complain about without sounding ungrateful. Nothing bad happened, life is fine, things are okay, but something that used to feel like something now feels like less of something, and that gap is worth actually looking at. For me, it was gaming that made me notice it first, but I've talked to enough people about this to know it shows up differently for everyone. For some people, it's going out. They used to count down to the weekend, and now they're there, and it's fine, but it's just fine. For some people, it's a hobby they used to lose themselves in completely that now requires more effort to get into than it used to. The specific thing doesn't matter as much as the pattern, which is that you're doing something that used to reliably produce a feeling, and now it's producing a quieter version of that feeling, and you're not sure what to do with that information. I remember sitting down to play something I'd been genuinely looking forward to and realizing about an hour in that I was waiting to get absorbed, and it wasn't quite happening. And the weird thing was, I couldn't point to anything wrong with the game or with the evening. Everything was fine. I just wasn't as inside it as I expected to be. And I closed it feeling a kind of mild flatness that I didn't really have words for at the time. This vague sense that something I was counting on hadn't delivered. Except I couldn't even fully blame it for not delivering, because objectively, nothing had failed. That's the specific feeling I'm talking about. And I think most people know exactly what I mean, even if they've never put it into words. The most honest explanation I've found for why this happens is pretty straightforward. When you're young, almost everything you encounter is genuinely new to you. A game you've never played before, a place you've never been, a kind of night out you haven't had yet. Your brain is processing experiences it has no reference point for, and that process of encountering something for the first time produces a response that's hard to replicate once you've already had it. The newness itself is doing a lot of the work. As you get older, that pool of genuinely new experiences gets smaller. You've played enough games that new ones feel like variations on things you've already done. You've been out enough times that a night out has a shape you recognize before it even starts. You know roughly how most things are going to feel before you're in them because you've been in enough versions of them already. And your brain, which is very good at pattern recognition, stops paying as much attention to things it has already categorized. It doesn't need to. It already knows this one. This isn't a character flaw, and it's not a sign that something has gone wrong with you. It's just what happens when you've lived enough to have seen most things before. The intensity you felt at 14 encountering something for the first time was real, but part of what made it intense was that you had no idea what was coming. That specific ingredient is genuinely hard to get back once it's gone, and I think a lot of people spend a lot of time confused about why things feel flatter without ever identifying that as the actual reason. There's a separate thing that happens alongside the novelty issue, and it's worth talking about on its own because I think it operates a little differently. Routine doesn't just mean doing the same things, it means your life becomes predictable enough that your brain stops being fully present for it. When you know roughly how a day or a weekend or an evening is going to go before it starts, you're already partly somewhere else while it's happening. You're not really there because there's nothing requiring you to be there, nothing unexpected that needs your attention. Childhood didn't have this problem to the same degree because the structure of it kept changing whether you wanted it to or not. New school year, new class, new people, things shifting around you at a pace that kept you oriented toward what was coming next. Adult life tends in the opposite direction. You find something that works and you repeat it, which makes sense and is in a lot of ways a good thing, but it has this side effect of making weeks feel shorter and experiences feel more compressed because nothing is standing out enough to create a clear memory. I noticed this when I started finding it hard to remember what I'd actually done over the past few weeks. Not because nothing happened, but because everything that happened looked more or less the same as the week before. And when your weeks are indistinguishable from each other in your memory, the individual moments inside them stop feeling like much while they're happening either. Your brain knows this is a Tuesday that looks like every other Tuesday, and it's allocating attention accordingly. I want to be careful here because I think most advice about this tends to oversimplify it in a way that isn't actually useful. The version you usually hear is do new things, break your routine, try something different, which is technically true, but is also so vague that it doesn't really help anyone do anything. So I'll try to be more specific about what I've actually found works. The thing that helped me most wasn't doing dramatically different things. It was paying more attention to the things I was already doing, which sounds almost insultingly simple, but I mean it practically. When you're going through a familiar experience on autopilot, your brain is elsewhere, and the experience passes without leaving much of an impression. When you're actually present for it, paying attention to what's specifically happening rather than running on pattern recognition, it registers differently. The same evening can feel meaningfully different depending on whether you're actually in it or just passing through it. The other thing is that seeking out genuinely new experiences, even small ones, does actually work, just not in the dramatic way people frame it. You don't need to go somewhere you've never been or do something extreme. Doing something you haven't done before in whatever form that's accessible to you is enough to make your brain actually show up for it. The bar for what counts as new is lower than people think. And the last thing, which took me a while to accept, is that the intensity of feeling things at 15 is probably not something you get back in the same form, and trying to chase it is mostly a way of making the present feel inadequate by comparison. The quieter version of enjoying things that comes with being older is still enjoyment. It just doesn't announce itself as loudly. I think the thing I've landed on after sitting with this for a while is that the feeling of things being boring or flat as you get older is less about something being wrong and more about a kind of adjustment that nobody really prepares you for. You spend your whole childhood in a state of fairly constant stimulation, things changing around you, everything still being relatively new. And then at some point that settles and life gets more stable, and you interpret the stability as flatness because that's what it feels like compared to what came before. And the comparison is always going to make the present seem like less than it is. 14-year-old, you had no baseline to compare anything against. Everything was just happening and you were in it. Now you have years of experience sitting behind every moment you're in, and your brain is running a comparison you never asked it to run. I'm not trying to wrap this up with some clean conclusion because I don't think there is one. I still have weeks that feel like they blur together and evenings where I expected to feel more than I did. But I've also had moments recently that felt genuinely good in a way that didn't need to be compared to anything. And I think that's about as much as you can reasonably ask for. You're not chasing something you lost. You're just learning what enjoyment actually looks like at this stage of your life, which is different from what it looked like before, and probably different again from what it'll look like later.